insulated from the kind of life that you've had. They don't know anybody like you.
Oh,
So,
I'm realizing.
Experience.
I mean, there's so many people that are insulated from the kind of life that you've had. They don't know anybody like you.
Oh,
So,
I'm realizing that Chris, my producer, I scared the shit out of him. He's like, "Why are you yelling at me?" I'm like, "Chris, I'm not yelling. You'll know when a black woman is yelling. When she go to twisting her neck and taking off her wig and unbuckling her bra, I'm yelling. I'm just talking. My voice, I have a deep voice and it carries. You know what's crazy? Because, like I say, he's a little white kid from Indianapolis. And so I'm talking on a podcast and I'm teaching them about black pussy incense. You ever heard of that?
black pussy incense?
Yeah. You know that you burn. The black people used to burn in their house.
I know about incense, but I
Yeah, it
didn't know
used to be
about
called black pussy. He swore me down it wasn't real. So we put out the podcast. Everybody's like, my mama say black pussy incense. It was the best scent out there, Joe.
Oh, okay.
You look like, what did it smell like?
I like incense.
Yeah, that was the name of it. And I told him about it. He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm telling you, black pussy incense. Everybody listen to R. Kelly and burnt black pussy incense on a Saturday morning, clean their house.
Everybody listen to R. Kelly and burnt black pussy incense. Holy shit. Jesus Christ.
So every week I'm teaching him something that he has never heard of.
What do you think about all this R. Kelly shit?
I think you did it, Joe. I mean, but people just looked away. You know,
Yeah.
I tell a bit on stage. I said something about a big dick black man that can't read. They puts it down. They have awful women.
I can't read. They put it down.
My first kid's father couldn't read. When they ain't got no side teeth and they can't read, they got the best sex because they practice all the time. Black men who can't read don't have sex like black men who got a 9-to-5 who can read. The sex is totally different
Because they're not tired.
because they practice. All they do is practice on women. I mean, my husband got to go to work, Joe. He ain't got time to be flipping me over, slapping me across the head. He ain't got time for all that ghetto love.
Oh my God, I'm crying.
He ain't got time for all that ghetto love. But when you got a brother that can't read and don't work, the best sex. Now, he ain't gonna go to work, but he gonna watch The Young and the Restless and The Housewife of Atlanta. But when he get back, that dick is laying on that pillow for you.
Jesus Christ.
I know what Whitney Houston went through. Everybody like, Bobby ain't for Whitney. I was like, that's the dick Bobby putting down. And he had to work even harder because she had more money than him.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. Somebody had a meme they put up on the Instagram the other day of how every dude whose girlfriend is paying for everything stands. And it's like a guy standing with his arm deep around the girl, like deep around, holding on to her, or they're waiting in line for things.
Baby, in public, always baby, holding her hand. You can't get my husband to hold my hand. You know why? Because he paid the mortgage. I called home yesterday. I said, I love you. He said, thank you. I'm in the bed. I was on the phone with my friend one day. So I said, listen to my husband. My husband funny as fuck. And so I said, hey, baby, you want some pussy? He said, not at all. Not at all. My friend said, did he say not at all? And I said, guess what? He's snoring already. He's snoring already. When we have that type of relationship, I said, hey, I'm gonna need you to fuck me on the 14 because I think I'm ovulating. I need to get some stuff off my chest.
Oh my God.
He said, not at all, Joe. We bought a sleep number bed. And he was like, because his knee was messed up, buy this sleep number bed. I'm going to put it out every night. I'm like, fuck yeah. So I had just got to deal with Fox for my TV show. So I walk in the damn sleep number like a real Negro when they get some money. Give me the best fucking bed you want because I'm going to fuck every night. They sold me a $13,000 sleep number bed, but I should have known he wasn't gonna do shit because he was insisting on getting a mattress that split down the middle. You know, the two mattresses are separate. That shit split down the middle, and now every time I want to have sex, I got to tell my, hey, you want to come to America and get some pussy?
Come to America. You want to come to America? Who's got the harder side?
He do. He's like, I ain't fucking with you on that mattress. It's too soft on that. Come over here. And then now we done gave up. We just fuck in the middle. And by the time we get through, the fucking mattress done fell off the bed because we in the middle where the hole at. And half of the time, just chips and shit just stuck in the middle of the bed. The remote, my wig, everything just in the middle of the bed.
Oh my God.
As soon as I get my TV show, I'm gonna buy me a mattress that put us back to fucking together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. That was a piece of Joe Rogan with Miss Pat. Funny skit. I figured, get a little laugh on before we start. All right, guys. How's everybody doing? Who is in the building? Let's say hello to everyone. If I miss you, my bad. Okay, Friendly Dick. I love this R. Kelly Hot D. Okay, nice to meet you, Friendly Dick. Welcome to my channel. These names are crazy. 100. What's up, 100? Darcy, hello. Karen Johnson, what's up, baby? Nettie Boo, what's up, lovely? Hello. OCOV, Reverend Fat Boy. Black Girl Beauty, what's up, mama? Latrice, hello. Indigo, Karen J. Denitra, hey, how are you? Nettie Boo Boo, once again. Karen, R&B Trina. Can you guys hear me? Let me know you guys can hear me. Give me a thumbs up in the chat, please. Daddy's Girl 1973, hello. Welcome. Missy, what's up, sis? Okay. My peoples are in the building. Samara, what's up, mama? True strong warrior. What's up, baby? Let's see. Okay, making sure I say hello to my fam and everybody who's in here. Hello, Larry's minion. What's up, mama? Wait, who did I just miss here? Oh, man. Wait, where is, I think I just missed somebody. I skipped somebody or something. Tasha. What's up, Tasha? Larry's minion. Okay. Let's see who else. All right. Take our Kelly. Give us back to Pat. What's up? Brooklyn D. Hello. What's up? All right. Yada dada. Ta. What's up, guys? Hope everybody's doing great this evening. Okay, so we are on day 3, which was August 20th of 2021 of R. Kelly's trial. Our brother Atmos Love started it off. I'm doing the second part, and we are where he said we left off on 5:11, so that's where I will continue. Okay. And Keller, for some reason, I uploaded that watermark paperwork you gave me, but for some reason, I don't know, it's not showing here. It's weird, but yeah. So I'm just gonna read it this way. Let me take my banner off here. Okay. And anyone, please, this is a reminder. By the way, we are collecting donations throughout the month of the trial. Okay. Right now, we're waiting for day 5, 6, and 7. And then Monday will be 8. We have enough for all 4. But the lady's like taking her time. She's very busy. And I know this holidays are coming up for certain religions and that sort. Plus, I'm pretty sure she has to redact some things, sidebar notes, and things of that nature. So we're patiently waiting. So we are going to continue where we left off with Atmos Love Zone. By the way, you can go to his channel, and we are both reading transcripts as well as Whitney DTV, our channel by Angie. And Reverend Fat Boy is doing his thing over there by just letting it all play out. And it's me, Robert Keller, and Atmos Love Zone that we are collecting. So I put the information, it's scrolling on the bottom of the screen. You guys should be able to see it. That's my Cash App information, Robert Keller's Cash App information, and Atmos Love Zone's information. Guys, if you guys know the Cash Apps, can you please, throughout the chat, every so often, throw it in there, okay? And for those who donate, we'll get a copy of the transcript. So if you want a copy of the transcript, please email me. Mods, can you please put my email in there as well? My email is diva.josh.32332@gmail.com. All right. And yes, please don't forget, guys, to like the video. On your way in, you could take a quick step out. Hey, Ty Bear, how are you, honey? Welcome. You can, as I said, you can email me and I will send you the transcripts, but it's only going out to those who donate. Only to those who donate. So that would be good because we're going to try to keep this up throughout the month. We got a few more weeks to go. By the way, guys, can everybody hear me loud and clear? I don't sound choppy. Do I sound fine? Let me know before I take my eyes off the screen. Give me thumbs up. Let me know it's good. You hear me loud and clear. Okay, sound good. All right. Thank you, Indigo. And please, guys, yes, please, throughout the chat, remember, if you can, to throw up the Cash App for Diva Divine Light, for Robert Keller 83, and This Blessed House for Atmos Love Zone. All right. And if you guys don't have Cash App, I do have a Zelle. I have a Zelle. And I also have Venmo. And I also have PayPal. Okay. All righty. Here we go. All right. Now, starting from 511, line 1. So let's go back a little bit to what was said. Okay, so Miss Geddes who is examining Mr. A. Navarro, her last question to him was, and I think you testified they would also from escort people from the gate. How is the gate opened? And Anthony said, so the security guards had a gate clicker that they could click it to open the gate. And then sometimes they would call down to the studio to open the gate. And Ms. Getty said, okay, so what was there a mechanism from within the studio to open up the gate? And Anthony said, so it's from the inside of the studio. We also had another clicker. So we would have to walk outside, go up the stairs, and walk out to the side of the house to click it. So it would reach. Yeah. And then Ms. Getty says, so the clicker would have to be within a certain distance from the gate in order for it to be activated? And he said, yeah. So one of the clickers, you'd have to go outside to do it, but then there is another one where you could do it from the inside of the cabin studios. So you could point it and it would reach from inside there. Then Ms. Getty says, while you were at this chocolate factory, do you recall a time when someone tried to get through the gates without a guard opening the gate? And he said, Mr. Navarro said, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question, please? Ms. Getty said, yes. While you were working at the chocolate factory, do you recall an instance where someone was able to get through the gate without the security guards opening the gate? Mr. Navarro said, so the gate was usually closed. Yeah, so people couldn't get in unless they hopped the fence. Ms. Getty said, did that ever happen? Mr. Navarro said, yes, I've seen that happen before. Ms. Getty said, how did you see that happen? From what vantage point did you see it? Mr. Navarro said, I saw it from the security camera from the reception desk. Ms. Getty said, and do you recall that happening on one occasion or more than one occasion? Mr. Navarro said, I've only seen that happen one time, once. And Ms. Getty said, what do you recall from that particular occasion that you saw that happening? Mr. Navarro said, so it was two girls that had climbed over the fence, and I could see them running across the lawn, the front lawn, and they ran. I don't know where they ran, but they disappeared off the camera. I guess they hid somewhere. And then Ms. Getty says, what, if anything, did you do when you saw that happening? Mr. Navarro said, I called one of the managers to let them know what had happened. Ms. Getty said, and can you describe the quality of the footage that you saw? Mr. Navarro said, it was like black and white footage, security camera. And it was pretty clear. You could see. Ms. Getty said, did you recognize either of the individuals? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Getty said, who did you recognize? Either of the individuals to be? And Mr. Navarro said, so one of the girls was someone that had been to the house before. And Ms. Getty said, what, if anything, do you recall about the agents of those girls? Ms. Blank Becker said, objection. The judge said, overruled. Did you form an impression about how old they were, or did you know? Oh, so she must have said, okay, the reporter must have made an error here because she must have said, what, if anything, do you recall about the ages of those girls? And then Ms. Blank Becker said, objection. Judge said, overruled. Did you form an impression about how old they were, or did you know? Mr. Navarro, the witness, says, yeah, they looked really young. The one girl in particular that had been there before just looked pretty young, younger than me. Miss Getty said, at the time you were working there, how old were you? Mr. Navarro said, I was in my early 20s, like 21 or 22, around there. And then Miss Getty said, and when you say looked really young and younger than you, Mr. Koenig said, objection. Judge said, I'm sorry, only the lawyer who is doing the cross can make the objection. Mr. Koenig said, I'm sorry. The court said, that's all right. I take it Miss Blank Becker is making the objection? Mr. Koenig said, yes. The judge said, the objection is overruled. Go ahead. Examination by Ms. Geddes continues. Ms. Geddes says, when you say that you thought that they looked really young and younger than you, can you support specific and how old if you formed an impression you believed them to be? Mr. Navarro said, back then, I thought they were like mid-aged teenagers, pretty young. Ms. Getty said, and I'm now showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government Exhibit 34. Do you recognize 34? Mr. Navarro said, yeah. Ms. Getty said, who is shown in 34? Mr. Navarro said, that's a picture of me. And Ms. Getty says, is that a fair and accurate photo of you? And Mr. Navarro said, yeah. Ms. Getty said, the government offers 34. Ms. Blank Becker said, no, objection. Judge says, okay, that's an evidence and you can publish it. The government's Exhibit 34 was received in evidence as of this date. The above referred to exhibit was published to the jury. How old were you when that picture was taken? And Mr. Navarro said, is this my driver's license? I feel like that's my driver's license. And Ms. Getty says, do you recall how old you were? And Mr. Navarro said, so that was my Illinois driver's license photo? But I had to have been 22 at the time, or 23? Ms. Getty said, is that approximately the time when you were at the chocolate factory? And Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Getty said, are you aware of parties that were held at the defendant's residence in Olympia Fields? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Getty said, and did you attend those parties? Mr. Navarro said, I did, yes. Ms. Getty said, what was your role at those parties? Were you there as a guest or as an employee? Mr. Navarro said, I was there as an employee. And Ms. Getty said, what did you do? Mr. Navarro said, so there is different types of parties, but a lot of the stuff I did was like stocking the bar because they would have alcohol. Sometimes I would bartend, I would clean take trash out. I would, go shopping for the parties, pick stuff up, pick people up as well. And Miss Geddes asked, "Did you learn where the guests would park who were attending parties at Olympia Fields?" Mr. Navarro said, "What was the question again?" Miss Geddes said, "Did you learn where guests would park who were attending parties at Olympia Fields?" Mr. Navarro said, "Yeah. So they either would park on the actual property, or if they ran out of space, they could park, excuse me, there is a hotel down the street. They could park there." And then Ms. Geddes said, "Approximately how far away was the hotel?" Mr. Navarro said, "It was really close. It was like a 5-minute drive, not far at all." Then Ms. Geddes said, how would the guests get from the hotel to the party in Olympia Fields?" And then Mr. Navarro was like, "There's different ways. A tour bus would taxi them back and forth, or they would use any of the vehicles that Rob owned to taxi them back and forth." And then Ms. Geddes says, "I'm showing the witness only what's been marked for identification as Government 521, Exhibit 521. Do you recognize 521? Mr. Navarro said, "Yes." And then Ms. Geddes said, "What is 521? What is shown there?" And Mr. Navarro says, "So that's the Holiday Inn Hotel that was down the street from the studio." And Ms. Geddes said, "And what, if anything, happened at the Holiday Inn Hotel?" Mr. Navarro said, "That's just where people would park. Sometimes guests would stay there." Miss Geddes said, is that a location where guests at a party would park and then be transported to the defendant's residence?" Mr. Navarro said, "Yes." Ms. Geddes said, "Okay, government offers 521. And Ms. Blank Becker said, "No objection, Your Honor." And the judge said, "That's in evidence. You can publish it. Government's Exhibit 521 was received in evidence as of this date. The above referred to exhibit was published to the jury." Ms. Geddes says, "When you were you working for the defendant while the defendant had court proceedings in Chicago?" And Mr. Navarro said, "Yes." Ms. Geddes said, "What was your role?" Mr. Navarro said, "So my role while I was with Rob during that was just like an assistant. So I would have to deliver things or pick up food or pick up people. Yeah, that's pretty much it." And then Ms. Geddes said, "What, if anything, would you do with respect to getting to the court proceedings?" Mr. Navarro said, "I don't understand the question." Ms. Geddes said, "Do you have any role in transporting anybody to the court proceedings?" Ms. Blank Becker says, "Objection." The judge said, "Overruled." Mr. Navarro said, "Yes." The prosecutor said, "What was your role? What did you do?" Mr. Navarro said, "Like, I would drive people either guests or the crew. And the prosecutor said, in what vehicles would you drive people? Mr. Navarro said it would be one of Rob's vehicles. So it could be any of the SUVs or the Chrysler, whichever vehicle was available. And the prosecutor said, and where would you drive people to? And Mr. Navarro said, we would usually we would park at, there was a park nearby the courthouse. And the prosecutor said, and what, if anything else, was parked in that park? You said you would drive some of the defendant's vehicles. What, if anything else, would be in that park? Mr. Navarro said, so there would be a few of his vehicles and his staff. And then sometimes the tour bus, one of them or two of them would be there. And the prosecutor said, did you ever travel with the defendant? He said, yes. The prosecutor said, for what reason? Mr. Navarro said, I traveled with him during one of the concert tours that he did. Ms. Getty said, do you recall which tour you traveled with the defendant for? Mr. Navarro said, I do. It's called the Double Up Tour. Ms. Getty said, do you remember when that was? He said, 2008. Ms. Getty said, so what was your role when you traveled with the defendant on the Double Up Tour? He said, my role is pretty much the same types of job things that I would do at the studio in Chicago. So whatever Rob needed, if he needed food or if he needed things picked up or people picked up, that's what I do. That's what I would do. And Ms. Geddes was saying, you were often in the same locations as the defendant. And then Ms. Geddes said, Mr. Navarro said, during the tour, Ms. Geddes said, yes. And Mr. Navarro said, yeah, it's the same place that the tour cities that we were in. And the prosecutor said, what, if anything, did you see being distributed while you were with the defendant on tour? Mr. Navarro said, can you say it again? And Ms. Geddes said, did you ever see anything being given out to other people while you were on tour? And Mr. Navarro said, yeah, there is like, I guess, people would get invites and things to go to after parties. Then Ms. Geddes said, and what are you referring to when you say invites? What was it that was distributed? Mr. Navarro said, it was like Rob's phone number. So he was one of the guys giving out the numbers too. So Ms. Geddes said, and how was Rob's phone number distributed? Well, actually, he saw the transactions of the phone numbers being passed around. Wow. So Ms. Geddes had asked him, and how was Rob's phone number distributed? And Mr. Navarro said, usually just on a piece of paper that was just handed to the person. Ms. Geddes said, and did you have an opportunity to see those pieces of paper? And he said, yes. She said, what, if anything, was written on the pieces of paper? And he said, just his phone number. And Ms. Geddes said, what, was it handwritten or typewritten, as you recall? He said, these were handwritten. And Ms. Geddes said, and who did you see giving out the defendant's phone number? And Mr. Navarro said, so Tom has done. I've seen Tom Arnold distribute that. Who else? There was people that was on the tour with us. Yeah, so any of the crew that was with us at the time would do it. Okay, so now we see where Tom Arnold fits into this situation. Tom Arnold was one of the guys who would hand out the numbers. But we'll read about him in day 7. Then Ms. Getty said, and where would you see the defendant's phone number being distributed? Where would this happen? Mr. Navarro said, usually it was in the crowds at the shows. So the audience of the show, sometimes it was out when we would go out places. Yeah, they would give it out. And Ms. Getty said, in what other places outside of the shows do you recall seeing people give out the defendants? And then Mr. Navarro said, the mall, restaurants. Oh, wait. Then Ms. Getty said, I want to finish my question for the record. Give me 1 second, guys. Hold on, guys. I'll be right with you. I have a delivery. Hold on. Okay, I'm back, guys. Sorry about that. I had to take care of business. I had a delivery, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get back to it. Now, Ms. Giddy said, I want to finish my question for the record. Is that where you would see individuals giving out the defendant's phone number in those locations that you just testified? Mr. Navarro said yes. Ms. Getty said, you testified that you would transport some of the defendant's guests in around Chicago. Would you also transport guests while you were working for the defendant on tour outside of Chicago? Mr. Navarro said yes. Ms. Getty said, and did you ever transport guests on longer trips? Mr. Navarro said yes. Ms. Getty said, what do you recall? Where do you recall transporting a guest on a longer trip? Mr. Navarro said, so from one of the shows, it was in Alabama. I can't remember the city, but I think it was Birmingham. I took someone from, well, I had to stay overnight at that tour stop. The rest of the crew had left it, go to the next city. Ms. Getty said, and where was the next city? Sorry about that, guys. And Ms. Getty said, and where was the next city? Mr. Navarro said, the next city was in Atlanta. Ms. Getty said, what did you do the following day after you stayed overnight? Mr. Navarro said, so I was instructed to take a guest and take her from that stop, from that city in Alabama to Atlanta. And Ms. Getty said, and you said you were instructed to take her. Was it a female guest? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Getty said, what did you understand the female guest relationship to be to the defendant? He said, just one of Rob's girlfriends that was going to visit him. Ms. Getty said, what if any conversation did you have with, well, let me withdraw that question. How long is the drive from where you were in Alabama to where you brought this female guest in Atlanta? Mr. Navarro said, it was long. I don't know. I don't remember. And then Ms. Getty said, more than a few hours? And he said, yeah. She said, what, if any, conversation did you have with the female guest during that trip? And he said, there was no conversations. And she asked, why not? Mr. Canick said, objection. Judge said, is there a reason why you didn't speak to the women you were, the girl, whatever, the female that you were driving? Mr. Navarro said, yeah, we were instructed to not talk to anybody, any of the females. The judge said, okay. And then Ms. Getty continues and asks, how were you paid while you were working for the defendant? Mr. Navarro said, like a check. Ms. Getty said, how regularly did you receive a paycheck? Was it on a regular basis? And then Mr. Navarro said, yeah, it was like weekly or bi-weekly. I can't remember how, but it was like weekly. Ms. Getty said, do you recall whose name was listed on the paycheck as the payer? And Mr. Navarro said, yeah, it was Base Productions. Ms. Getty said, and what did you under Base Productions to be? Mr. Navarro said, that was the company, like I guess, the corporate entity of the recording studio, the business. Ms. Getty says, was there ever a time when you were, in fact, working for the defendant when you were not paid for the time that you worked for the defendant? He said, yeah. So when I first started as an intern there, I wasn't paid. Ms. Getty said, aside from the time when you went on as an intern, was there a time when you believed that you were going to get paid, but ultimately you were not paid for the time that you worked? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Getty said, why did you understand that you were not paid? And Mr. Navarro said, so it was an overtime. Ms. Getty said, so aside from the overtime, was there another time when you expected to be paid, but, Your Honor, not paid? He said, yeah. Ms. Getty said, what happened? Mr. Navarro said, I was fined. And Ms. Getty said, by whom? He said, by Rob. Ms. Getty said, and when you say fined, what do you mean? Mr. Navarro said, so, you know, when like an NBA player gets fined for, I guess, breaking a rule and they like deduct their pay as a penalty, that's what it was. Ms. Getty said, and do you recall why you were fined and not paid for time that you worked? And Mr. Navarro said, I can't remember why. It was something trivial that, I don't know. Ms. Getty said, when you say trivial, what are you referring to? He said, just, Ms. Blankbecker said, objection. He said he doesn't remember. The judge said, overruled. The witness says, Mr. Navarro said, yeah. Judge says, why did you call it trivial? Mr. Navarro said, well, it was just something stupid that didn't make any sense. That's what I meant. Didn't seem like a valid reason to be penalized your pay for doing this. I just don't remember what I did. The judge said, when you say you got fined, did that mean that you didn't get paid at all, or that a portion of your pay was that you didn't get a portion of the pay? Mr. Navarro said, at the time, I remember the fine. I can't remember if it was my whole check or if it was partial of the check. And then the judge said, okay, go ahead. The prosecutor steps in and says, you testified earlier that you received checks from Bass Productions. Who did you understand it be in charge of Bass Productions? And Mr. Navarro said, so Daryl McDavid and the lady that was like manager of the office that would talk to her, her name was Shirley. Ms. Giddy said, now, you also mentioned that there was an issue with receiving overtime. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes. The prosecutor said, did you file a lawsuit against the defendant? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Getty said, and how was that lawsuit resolved? Ms. Navarro said, I was just compensated. Ms. Getty said, when? In relation to the time that you were working for the defendant was at the lawsuit filed? Mr. Navarro said, that was after my time. I wasn't working at the time for the defendant. Ms. Getty said, and the lawsuit that you filed against the defendant, what was the nature of that lawsuit? Just very generally speaking, was it related to the overtime dispute? And then Mr. Navarro says, yeah, so it was just a request to get compensated for some overtime that I did. And, I had asked the office for it, and they said they didn't want to do it. So I brought a lawsuit. And Ms. Getty said, and when you say you had asked the office for it, what office are you referring to? Mr. Navarro said, Bass Productions. Ms. Getty said, so what, if any, contact have you had with the defendant since you filed and resolved that lawsuit? Mr. Navarro said, there hasn't been any contact. And then Ms. Getty says, one moment. A brief pause in the proceedings was held. Then Ms. Getty says, no further questions. The judge says, okay, cross-examination. Ms. Blank Becker said, thank you, Judge. Judge said, okay, now cross-examination by Ms. Blank Becker. So now we're cross-examining Mr. Navarro by the defense team, and the lawyer that's speaking for Mr. Robert Kelly is Ms. Blank Becker. She says, shall I say, good morning, Mr. Navarro. How are you? Mr. Navarro said, I'm fine. How are you? Then Ms. Blank Becker says, Ms. Becker, shall I just say? Let me just say Ms. Becker. Ms. Becker said, I'm good, thank you. Mr. Navarro, my name is Nicole Becker, and I'm going to be asking you a bunch of questions. If one of them doesn't make sense or you need me to repeat it, just let me know, okay? Mr. Navarro said, sure. Ms. Becker said, all right, Mr. Navarro. My understanding is that you worked for quite some time with Mr. Kelly. Is that correct? And Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, and you were pretty familiar with Olympia Fields, fair enough? He said, yes. Then Ms. Becker said, all right, that's basically that was your home base, for lack of better words. Is that fair to say? He said, yes. Ms. Becker said, all right. And you were talking about, you were kind of giving us a map, if you would, of the home earlier. Is that correct? And Mr. Navarro said, yes. And Ms. Becker said, okay, this house would, in your estimation, would you say this is a small house, a huge house? What would you say? And Mr. Navarro said, it was huge. Ms. Becker said, did you have any, and I know some people aren't good with feet and so forth, did you have any concept or any idea of how many square feet this house could be? Mr. Navarro said, no. Ms. Becker said, huge is the best description. Is that fair? Mr. Navarro said, yeah, it was a mansion. Like, why does she want to know about how many square feet? Like, really? Okay. Then Ms. Becker says, okay, mansion, thank you. And the mansion, it was on a main road. Is that fair to say? Then Mr. Navarro said, Mr. Navarro said, the man, no, it was in like a subdivision. Then Ms. Becker said, okay, you know what? I have used that type of verbiage. It was in a subdivision, but there wasn't like neighbors right next door. They were spread out. Is that fair to say? Mr. Navarro said, there was, yes. The other houses were like because the property was pretty large. So the neighbors were like, they weren't really anywhere nearby. Like, you couldn't see the neighbors from the property. And then Ms. Becker said, thank you. And with regards to parking cars when guests would come or individuals who were employees and working at the studio, would they park on the street in the front? Mr. Navarro said, they would park on the street, but like the driveway of the house. And Ms. Becker said, okay, so you saw the picture of the gate earlier. Do you remember that? Is that correct? And Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, so when you were saying they would park on the driveway, you're talking past the gate that they could park on that driveway? That part of the driveway to the house, is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, yeah, they would park on the inside of the gate. And Ms. Becker said, they weren't typically parking on the outside of the gate. Is that true? Mr. Navarro said, are you asking me if the staff did that? And then Ms. Becker said, the guests who were coming and, employees that were working in the studio? Mr. Navarro said, usually the guests would be, like, people would park on the inside, yeah. Ms. Becker said, and then when there were large parties at Olympia Fields, that's when it was necessary to sort of, I believe you indicated there was a tour bus at another location, right? Mr. Navarro said, yes. And Ms. Becker said, okay. And you used the word tour bus, and I apologize. I'm just going to be a little specific. It wasn't actually a tour bus. It was sort of like a charter bus. Is that fair to say? And Mr. Navarro said, no, these are tour buses. These were the buses that we used to tour. Ms. Becker said, okay, and again, and Mr. Navarro said, but I guess that's the actual name of it, is a charter bus, but I don't know. Then Ms. Becker said, okay, I apologize. Let me try and clear that up for you, okay? The buses that were used to bring the guests over, those were different buses than the tour buses that were used for a long journey for a tour. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, no, these were the actual tour buses that you used for a tour. Ms. Becker said that Mr. Kelly would use for the tour. And Mr. Navarro said, yeah. And Ms. Becker said, got it. So you've been in those buses, correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, okay. And when you're in those buses, did you notice that there were any bedrooms? Mr. Navarro said, so there is a bedroom, like in the back of the bus, had a room with a bed in it. Ms. Becker said, all right, and then how about prior to getting to the back of the bus? Do you remember the bunk beds? Mr. Navarro said, I don't remember. I don't know. Ms. Becker said, did you ever sleep on any of the tour buses? He said, yes. Ms. Becker said, and when you slept on the tour bus, where would you sleep? He said, I would sleep in the bunks that were on the bus. Ms. Becker said, the bunks that you didn't remember out. I guess she meant to put remember of. So there were bunks in the bus. Mr. Navarro said, the bunk. So the bus, when we went on tour, there was a different bus. The staff had separate buses than Rob's buses. Ms. Becker said, okay, so there were different buses that were used during the tour. Isn't that what you just said? He said, yeah, there was additional buses that were booked. Ms. Becker said, okay, and so you're saying, yes, you would sleep on some of the tour buses? There were different tour buses than were shuttling the guests, correct? And Mr. Navarro said, I didn't sleep on Rob's buses. No. Miss Becker said, okay, you have been on Rob's buses. I'm pretty sure what you just said, right? You've been on the tour buses. Mr. Navarro said, yeah. Ms. Becker said, which are different, okay? And that's where, when you were on tour with Mr. Kelly, you too would sleep in one of the bunk beds on that tour bus. Is that correct? Ms. Getty said, objection. The judge said, it's a little bit confusing. Are you saying that Mr. Kelly's bus did not have bunk beds? Correct so far as you recall? Mr. Navarro said, I just can't remember of if his buses had bunks. I just can't remember if his buses had bunk beds. Lord. Then the judge said, but when you were talking about where you and other employees slept, you were talking about a separate bus. Is that correct? Ave Maria, with the bus and the bus and the bus. Then the witness, Mr. Navarro, said, yeah, there were different buses that they had got and different drivers that came in for that. The judge said, for the employees, the witness said, Mr. Navarro said, right. The judge said, okay, next question. Examination by Miss Blank Becker continuing. Ms. Becker says, thank you. You were aware that there was a lot of people, for lack of better words, on Mr. Kelly's tour bus. Is that fair to say? Mr. Navarro said, can you repeat that question? Yeah, she's definitely tricky Nikki, this lady. Uh-huh. She trying to trip him up and stuff. Mr. Navarro said, can you repeat the question? Ms. Becker said, sure. When you would go on tour, it sounds as if what you're saying, there was different tour buses for different people who were going along with you on the tour. Is that true? Mr. Navarro said, yeah. Ms. Becker said, and with regards to specifically Mr. Kelly's tour bus, you'd see people get in and out of that tour bus. Is that fair to say? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, it wasn't just Mr. Kelly getting in and out of the tour bus. Is that true? Mr. Navarro said, on his bus, yes. Ms. Becker said, okay. There would be women that would go in and out of the tour bus. Is that true? Mr. Navarro said, yes. And then Ms. Becker said, and maybe men, his friends that were coming along? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, and ultimately, was there a name for the tour bus that you were on? Was there a name for the bus? Mr. Navarro said, no. Ms. Becker said, who else was on the tour bus with you when you would go on the tour? Mr. Navarro said, so it would be the different people. So it would be the different people, but like the band, or not the band, but like the other employees that were on the tour? Ms. Becker said, okay. And were there ever women that were getting on your bus and staying on the bus, perhaps overnight, going from tour to tour? Excuse me, going from concert to concert. And then Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, and that was a regular thing. Is that true? And Mr. Navarro said, there was a time on the tour where there was a guest on our bus, but staying in the bathroom, in the back room of the bus. Ms. Becker said, so your bus too, that you would go on with the other employees that also had a bedroom in the back? Is that correct? He said, yes. Ms. Becker said, so in other words, to get to that bedroom, you had to pass by the bunks where you had slept and perhaps some of the other employees, correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, got it. And you indicated at one point there may have been a woman that was on the bus. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, yeah. Ms. Becker said, okay, and is that wasn't someone that was on the bus the whole time? Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, okay, and so is it fair to say that maybe at one of the concerts, one of the cities you were in, that woman came on to the bus? Mr. Navarro said, no. Can you repeat the question? Ms. Becker said, sure. Where did the woman come from that was on the bus? Do you remember? Mr. Navarro said, she was one of the dancers of the tour. So yeah, I don't remember like where she got on the bus. And then Ms. Becker said, understood. Dancers. They had another tour bus? Is that fair to say? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, and that tour bus for the dancers, they were all females. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, the bus was for the dancers. And Ms. Becker said, yeah. And Mr. Navarro said, all the dancers were females. Yes. Ms. Becker said, thank you. And on your bus, they were all males. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, now, these tour buses, they had bathrooms, correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes, they did. Ms. Becker said, locks on the doors on the bathroom? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, from the inside? The lock was on the inside or on the outside? I know it sounds like a silly question, but I have to ask. In other words, you go into the restroom, you will lock it on the inside when you go in. Mr. Navarro said, yeah, I think so. I don't remember that, but I don't know. Ms. Becker said, you don't remember thinking you're going to go in the bathroom someone might walk in? Mr. Navarro said, yeah, the lock was on the inside. And then Ms. Becker said, got it. Thank you. And were there any rules about when you could or couldn't use the bathroom on the tour buses? Mr. Navarro said, the only rule was like you couldn't take a number 2 because like it, travel with you and the drivers all get mad. Ms. Becker said, all right, so maybe for lack of better word, it would stink up the place? And Mr. Navarro said, yeah. Ms. Becker said, and everyone would smell it and there was an issue. Mr. Navarro said, yeah, you would smell it the whole time. So Ms. Nicole says, in order to relieve yourself in that manner, Were there stops taken if that was necessary? Mr. Navarro said, yeah. Ms. Becker said, okay, now I'd like to move on to Olympia Fields specifically. And you indicated that you were responsible sometimes to coordinate guests there, correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, okay, I would like to go through the process of what would happen when you would bring a guest there. I believe initially you indicated that once you arrived at Olympia Fields and you had guests with you, you first obviously had to stop at the gate. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, okay, and that's when security will come to talk to you or your guys. Did it on the phone? How did that work? Mr. Navarro said, the both ways. So the security guard would come out or you would just call. Ms. Becker said, okay. And the purpose of having to go through security is to make sure nobody's coming in that's not supposed to be. Fair enough? Yes. Then she said, he had security guards, correct? Yes. And he, part of the role and the strike that. Part of the reason that individuals were stopped was to make sure he was safe in his home. Is that fair? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, and he, part of the role, oh, I'm sorry. When you would get, Ms. Becker said, when you would get and see security and or by the phone or in person, the security had another role, which was they checked IDs. Is that fair to say? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Then Ms. Becker said, so specifically they would check and make sure it's the person's name that's supposed to be there. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, I don't know. Then Ms. Becker said, okay, so you have no idea why the guests that you would bring to Olympia Fields had to give their ID to the security? Ms. Getty says, objection. The judge says, why don't you rephrase the question? Ms. Becker said, sure. You saw the guests that were in the vehicle that you were bringing. You saw those guests hand over an ID. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, when I brought people over, no. The only time I've seen them check IDs were at parties. Then Ms. Becker said, okay, you never saw the security check an ID at the front gate? Mr. Navarro said, well, actually, yes. Never mind. I have seen that. And then Ms. Becker said, thank you. And after they would do a check of the person's ID, do you also remember then they would have those individuals sign non-disclosures? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, and the non-disclosure would be handed over and then the guests would choose to sign it or not sign it. Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, all right. And then after that part, that's when security and or yourself would escort the person to the home? He said, yes. Ms. Becker said, and then eventually bring the person into the home. Is that true? Mr. Navarro said, yeah. So security checkpoint, and then they were driven, and then they were given instructions on where to take them. Okay, so Ms. Becker says, great. Now, you indicated, well, strike that. The first thing that they would do is you indicated there was sort of like a separate entrance instead of front entrance to go to the studio. Is that fair to say? And Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, okay, and when you would enter through that second entrance and go to the studio, you didn't have to walk through the home? Is that correct? Mr. Navarro said, no, this was that second entrance. No, that was not through the home. Then Miss Becker said, and take us through when you opened the door. You came in and take us from that point then to the front desk. What happened? Is it immediately there? You're at the front desk? Tell us about that. Mr. Navarro said, so when you're going into the basement to get into the studio, as soon as you walk in, the front desk is the first thing on your left. Then Ms. Becker said, got it. Now, oftentimes you would be seated at the receptionist desk. And Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, all right. So if a guest came and you were not the one who picked up the guest, is it fair to say sometimes they came themselves to the studio and you didn't have to pick them up? Mr. Navarro said, yes. Ms. Becker said, okay, in fact, were Ubers even used? And, obviously you didn't have to drive anyone anywhere. Mr. Navarro said, Ms. Becker said, and I said Uber. Maybe it was a cab back at the time. Mr. Navarro said, yeah, I don't think Uber was around then. Ms. Becker said, yes, sorry. Then Mr. Navarro said, taxi cabs would. Sometimes people had their own cars as well. And Ms. Becker said, in their own cars. Got it. So I take it's fair to say that you're driving their own car. They're catching a cab. No one is directing them to the house. In other words, you didn't have, I believe earlier, you were saying that you had directions of what to do once you picked up a guest, correct? Mr. Navarro said yes. Okay. Tricky Nikki says, okay, I'm moving forward. All right. So someone comes into Olympia Fields. They come down the stairs, and then the first thing is the desk to the left, correct? He says correct. Then she said the front desk, I believe you referred to it, or I referred to it as, right? Yes. Miss Becker says, all right, what else was in that area? Were there some couches and so forth? Mr. Navarro said, in the front area of the reception. Miss Becker says, yes, yes. Mr. Navarro said, so there's a couch, there's a TV, there was like a kitchen, there's a kitchen. Miss Becker said, okay, now, not to sound silly, but the kitchen, did that have food in it? Was there food in there? Mr. Navarro said, there is a fridge, but there was usually not food in there. There was usually drinks. Sometimes we would have our lunch. We would store it in there, but there wasn't stuff to eat. I mean, sometimes there was groceries in there, but I guess, yeah, there was food in there. Ms. Becker said, thank you. And when guests would come to the studio there, was it immediately they'd go see whomever there were there for, or sometimes you would have them actually hang out there at the couch and wait? Answer to that was yes. Sometimes they would wait. And Ms. Becker said, when I use the word wait, maybe that's why you testified. The judge said, could you just put a question to that witness, please? Ms. Becker said, of course, Judge. Auntie said, thanks. The question by Ms. Becker was, sometimes they would wait, not just for a couple of minutes, but maybe hours. Is that fair to say? Mr. Navarro said, sometimes, yes. And Ms. Becker said, and when they were waiting there for hours, they could get up and leave if they wanted to, right? Go back out the door they came in. Okay, you guys, I think I'm going to leave it here for now. Guys. I got to eat my dinner. My stomach is going growl. And we'll come back later and do another part. And please remember to hit that like button. I'm going to Atmos. We left it on 543. If Miss Whitney D is doing a live after me, she will continue from 543. Unless it's Atmos, I left it at 543 for you guys. Okay. I love you guys. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you guys. Yes, page 543, Indigo. Remember that, babe, if you can. You're very welcome, guys. And if you would like to donate to the channel, you already know my Cash App is Diva Divine Light. And just when you put it in the notation, say this is for you. Okay? Not the transcripts. If you're going to donate, please be specific. For you or transcripts. The PayPal, you could put a note as well. And you guys are very welcome. Thank you once again. Thank you. Okay. And don't forget, y'all, hit that like button. Hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please do so. Hit the little bell next to the subscription. Put it on all. And you will get everything that the Diva puts out. Thank you, guys. Love you. Talk to you later. Peace.